The wind howled across the frozen mountains of eastern Ukraine, carrying flakes of ice like shards of glass through the night. In the silence of the Carpathian passes, engines could be heard long before they could be seen. The deep growl of diesel and the clanking of treads echoed through the valley, a Russian supply convoy, 38 vehicles long, creeping through the snowbound corridor. For them, it was just another supply run to reinforce the front. For the Ukrainians waiting in the shadows, it was the perfect trap. For days, Ukrainian reconnaissance drones had watched the route, their cameras tracing every turn of the convoy as it crawled up the narrow mountain road. The pass was treacherous even in the best of weather. Now it was slick with ice, the edges falling away into bottomless ravines. From a distance, the vehicles looked like dark metal beetles inching across a frozen serpent. They carried ammunition, diesel, rations, and even replacement engines for tanks bogged down on the Eastern Front. Every truck in that line was vital to keeping the Russian war machine running. In a small, dimly lit cabin 2 kilometers away, a group of Ukrainian soldiers huddled, around screens glowing green and blue from drone feeds. They had been waiting for hours, hidden beneath camouflage nets and snow. Their breath hung in the air like fog. Each man knew what was about to happen, and each one knew there would be no second chance. The commander, codenamed Vega, leaned closer to the monitor. His voice was calm but carried a sharp edge. "They're entering the choke point. Once they pass the bridge, we cut the head off. No one escapes." His men nodded silently. The plan had been rehearsed again and again for weeks. The Russians would be allowed to enter deep into the mountain corridor, where the road narrowed to a single lane between 2 frozen cliffs. Once inside, there would be no way to turn back. Far above them, a Ukrainian drone drifted silently through the gray dawn sky. Its camera zoomed in on the first trucks crossing the old stone bridge at the center of the pass. The convoy commander's voice crackled through Russian radio frequencies, calm and unaware. "Maintain formation, no stops." We moved straight through. But beneath the bridge, hidden beneath layers of snow and rock, lay a series of high-yield explosives planted days earlier by Ukrainian sappers. They had crept through the night in freezing temperatures to bury the charges. Their fingers numb from cold, but their focus unbroken. Now all that effort was about to pay off. Vega gave the order. "Wait for the lead truck to clear the bridge, and the fuel carriers to enter." The seconds stretched into eternity. The soldiers could feel their hearts pounding in their chests. On the monitor, the convoy moved deeper into the pass. Trucks filled with artillery shells followed massive fuel carriers, their headlights cutting through the swirling snow. The mountains exploded with light. The bridge vanished in a thunderous roar, flames shooting skyward as the lead truck was thrown into the air like a toy. The explosion shattered the silence, echoing through the entire valley. Within seconds, secondary blasts erupted as the fuel carriers ignited, turning the convoy into a river of fire. The flames spread fast, feeding on diesel and ammunition, painting the snow orange and black. Panic swept through the Russian column. Drivers slammed on their brakes, skidding on the ice, colliding with one another. Some soldiers jumped from their vehicles, diving into the snowbanks, their uniforms catching fire. Others tried to reverse, but the narrow road and wreckage blocked any escape. From the cliffs above, Ukrainian anti-tank teams opened fire with precision-guided rockets. Each shot found its mark. The pass had become a death trap. For nearly 30 minutes, the mountain burned. Explosions rolled through the valley like thunder, the air filled with thick smoke, ash, and the sharp smell of burning fuel. Drones captured everything: the firestorm, the chaos, the silhouettes of soldiers running in panic against the blinding flames. It looked less like a battle and more like the end of the world. When the shooting finally stopped, silence returned to the mountains. Only the crackling of fire and the groaning of twisted metal broke the stillness. The once proud convoy was reduced to smoking ruins. Charred trucks lay scattered like broken toys. Snow melted into black sludge, stained by fuel and ash. For the Ukrainians watching from the ridge, the sight was both grim and satisfying. They had just crippled a vital artery of the Russian supply chain, cutting off fuel and ammunition to multiple frontline divisions. But the victory came with a heavy cost. Hours later, as Ukrainian recovery teams moved in to assess the damage, they discovered that the blast had triggered a small avalanche on one side of the pass. Part of their own route out was now blocked, forcing them to dig through the night to clear a way. The cold was brutal, the air biting at their faces, yet no one complained. They knew what they had achieved. In Kiev, when footage of the strike reached military command, it was quietly celebrated. The images spread rapidly across encrypted channels, proof that the frozen front was far from quiet. Analysts later said the loss of that single convoy delayed Russian operations in the region by weeks. For the soldiers on the ground, it meant fewer shells falling on their positions and more time to prepare their defenses. One of the drone operators, a young man from Kharkiv, later described the moment in an interview. "We watched the fire spread from truck to truck, and I remember thinking, this is what patience means in war. We waited for days in the cold, and in one moment, everything changed."